Now, imagine you're watching a movie on Prime or Netflix or
Yeah.
any platform that you prefer, right? You're watching a Hindi movie and there's this dialogue that comes in place which says "Kala Akshar Bhes Barabar." Now,
Yeah.
your eyes
Happens.
directly roll over to the subtitles and it reads the black alphabet equal to the buffalo. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? No, right?
It doesn't.
Of course. The correct translation for that would be illiterate or dumb, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Connecting the dots back to the BA profile is this is what we do, right?
Right. Hello, viewers, and welcome to your very own Tech and More. In this episode, we are going to talk about all you need to know about transitioning your career into information technology. Maybe you're working in sales, maybe you're working in marketing, maybe you're working in the academic or academia. How you can transition yourself into information technology is something we're going to help you with. Now, before we actually go ahead and talk about our guest today and give her the podium, I have a small idea that I would like to share with you as I do in every podcast. So, guys, as you know, that podcasts are gaining a lot of traction these days. So even we thought of coming up with new ideas and how we can help you the best. But there's a catch. So the attention span has reduced drastically over the years, especially with the invent of reels and shorts and everything, right? So, of course, podcasts cannot be brought down to that less time. But as opposed to the podcasts which are there for 1 hour or 1.5 hours, we have tried to reduce this to 25, 30, 40 minutes max, depending upon how the session goes. And, because the intent is that you should get maximum information with less amount of, or I would say as less as possible time, right? So that is something that we are doing right now. That is something that we are trying. So do share your feedback. Do share your thoughts on how this idea is, and should we maybe increase or decrease the time, or all in all, your thoughts on Speed Podcast. Okay, so yeah, coming back to today's topic or today's agenda, we have with us Kiran Chavda. She is a seasoned senior business analyst, and she's someone who has successfully embarked on the journey of transitioning herself into information technology. She comes from Lady Shriram College, and of course, she comes from an arts background, and she has done some internships in sales marketing, but nothing related to IT when she graduated. And today, she's a successful business analyst who has a very good presence in the IT domain. She has more than 8 years of experience in this industry, and she whether it's delivering COVID-19 vaccination management programs, the huge projects or very time sensitive projects, or delivering public sector oriented solutions. She has constantly pushed boundaries, and she has received a lot of feedbacks, a lot of I would say shout outs in this particular domain. So she is today a successful IT professional, and she transitioned herself successfully. So I think she can help us in a big time on how to achieve this particular feat. So I'm going to stop now, and I'm going to give this podium back to Kiran. So, Kiran, thank you so much for joining today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. And by the way, thank you for that wonderful introduction for me.
Yeah.
I think the accolades that you mentioned are too much for now. But yep, I have been fortunate enough to work on multiple projects and be where I am right now today. So thank you.
Yeah, you might feel that your credentials, as someone who's working on them, you feel that okay, they're not that great. How come I'm being talked about so much? But if you see from my perspective, or if you see from the perspective of folks who are planning to move into this domain, you have achieved something because that's a goal for them right now, right? So of course, I have already spoken a lot about your credentials, but we would like to quickly hear from you that just tell us a little bit about your educational background and how you started and what are you doing right now.
Sure. So I would say my journey is kind of a long one.
Mhm.
I started my college in Delhi, Lady Shri Ram
Okay.
College of Commerce.
Mhm.
So I did my graduation in BA Economics Honors. So that's where I started. And after that, in that meanwhile, I did multiple internships at that particular moment. Internships in the field of sales and marketing, education, marketing research, HR, and I would say whatnot. I was kind of an active person in college as well. So I have been part of almost every domain that I could think of because I wanted the taste of all at that moment, and be sure of what I want in my life. So
Yeah.
that's about my internship in general. And when it comes to job, just out of college, I started with Wipro, and
Okay.
with Wipro is where this transition came into place. I was an economics student, now in IT, and just kind of being with the techies, which was
Yeah.
kind of a foreign world to me, an alien world
Yeah.
to me. I would say there was quite a lot of instances where I had where I did some self questioning. There was some demotivational thoughts that I had, and
Yeah.
also I had the urge of moving back to the mainline career of arts because, of course, it is a different transition or a very difficult phase for you. But I would say at that moment, the patience and the zeal to survive in that environment is what kept me going. And I would say in my entire journey of this transition, I had to say no to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is most important, and being taught a lot to professionals, which doesn't come easy. So this is a summary of my entire journey, and I think as we move on to the podcast, we'll talk more about it. Definitely.
Yeah, and of course, thank you for sharing your credentials. But one thing that you have mentioned that when you entered into this domain of techies and all right, so I come from a science background, and I have friends in other streams as well, of course, arts and commerce, and somehow we have this notion that okay, if you get into tech, it's quite boring. I mean, it's all just it's somebody typing relentlessly on the keyboards and just going on with it. So how did you feel? I mean, I want to hear from you. Of course, this is nothing related to what discussion we are going to have. But I mean, what was your experience quickly? Because I want to hear it from you, someone who's coming from a commerce background into tech background. So I mean, were we able to break your myth of that sort, or does it continue?
I would say that that's quite a funny question,
Yeah,
because my answer would be a little different, of course.
yeah,
See, when it comes to art, we have such an open mind. When we come to discussions, we come with uh, lot of thoughts, a lot of, I would say, experience when we talk about things. But to be honest, when I came into IT, it was a monotonous world.
yeah. It is.
Definitely, it's a monotonous word.
Yeah,
The thought process are very lenient,
yeah,
and I would say the people are not that expressive when it comes to their
yeah.
self thoughts. I think that's what made me stand out here. That I had that
Right.
way of putting my thoughts. I had the way of putting everything up and then coming to a solution rather than
Yeah,
thinking monotonously and aligning to
yeah.
like one single thought of line. So
Right. Right.
line of thought.
Yeah, actually, I think that's right because as engineers or as tech people, we are more trained to learn in a binary manner. That is, it's either a zero or a one. But I think as a commerce or specifically as an art student, when you get into law or when you get into history honors or all these different sort of amazing opportunities, I think there are multiple right answers to one question, and you are more open to discussion, hearing out the thoughts. But whereas in tech, it's either true or it's false. There is nothing in between. So
That's the
we
perfect way
some
to put it
yeah
forward,
yeah
actually.
yeah. So yeah, I mean that's good to know because I somehow had this thought right now, so I thought why not ask it. So cool. Let's get back to the main question because otherwise viewers are going to think that okay they are having a coffee sort of a chat, not the actual topic. So let's focus on that. So Kiran, I keep on getting these questions that talk about that we want to get into IT and we do not have any exposure in this domain. There are numerous growth opportunities as you and me already know, but the biggest challenge is that we are a little fearful of code or programming per se, right? And they feel that I mean there are some folks who are fearful of code but they want to learn it, and there are some folks who are not interested in programming at all, right? And somehow with the media and the news and publications or something like or movies or something, we have this myth going around that if you do not know how to code you cannot get into IT, and even if you do not have a good career ahead, right? So you are, I think, the right person to answer to this question because you moved from a non-IT background into IT background, and you being a business analyst, of course, you are not directly involved with the programming tasks of the entire IT circle. So, what would you like to say on this? I mean, help us debunk this myth.
I would say that's definitely a myth. Okay.
Hmm.
But I would not question to the fact that the expectation of people uh, who of people in IT from you would be there that you know programming. But that's where you
Yeah,
have to stand firm and clear your thoughts that you're not here for IT, for coding as such,
right, right.
but you're here for functional knowledge as such. If you look at me and my profile, I don't code at all. I
Hmm.
have never coded and I don't have an interest in learning coding as well. But that doesn't mean that I don't know anything about technology. My
Right.
hold on the technology is still strong. So if you look at uh, my profile as well, I did do a lot of certifications in Salesforce, but none of them are coding specific. All of them are
Mm.
functionality specific
Right,
of
right.
what addition we can do to you. So that your business can transform. So that's what I would say to people who are looking out for IT as a career as well. Yes, the general expectations from the market would be that you need to know coding,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's not true. If you find your way of what you want to do, there's always a way of getting into profiles where you don't need that much of coding. Rather, you just need that functional knowledge. And I would say uh, what matters the most in any form of business, forget about
mm,
IT, in any form of business would be how you make that change and
right,
how interested you are in making that change to the other person you're serving. It can be your IT client, it can be a client in your or a customer in a hotel as well, that how well you're serving them and
right,
how well you're able to meet their expectations is what makes you different. So I think
right,
that's what is needed for you. So you need to understand what transformation you can bring it up, and then you can look for profiles which matches your personal knowledge base and your personal skill set as well.
right.
MBA is of course one of it.
Right. And actually you have put it very in a very, I would say, business oriented manner. Because I feel that when we enter into a domain or anything new, right, we always just think from a micro perspective, that is an individual perspective, that yes, I would like to do this. But what impact does my role have in the wider context is something that we need to learn about. So as you rightly said, that we whatever we do, we have to make sure that how our services are bringing a change. It could be a positive, more positive, max positive change, but we at the end of the day, something has to get better for the end client, right? So on that note, Kiran, we would like to know, and since we say that yes, knowing how to code or knowing how to program is something which is not very very critical. So how does a business analyst role looks like? What is your typical day? What are your duties and everything? We would like to know that.
Okay. So, my role in general, I would kind of define it with the help of skill sets,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's what would help the audience as well relate more to it. My role generally revolves around communication,
Mm-hmm.
documentation, stakeholder management, domain understanding, and industry knowledge. So, these are a few skill sets which I would kind of combine and summarize it to you with. I have a different way of explaining stuff to people. So
Mm-hmm.
let me explain the BA role in a very different manner so that
Sure.
people can relate to it well. Now, everybody in the audience must have watched something on IT, sorry,
Yeah.
on OTT platform. And even this podcast is going to be there on one
Yeah.
of the OTT platforms right now. Now, imagine you're watching a movie on Prime or Netflix or
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
platform that you prefer, right? You're watching a Hindi movie and there's this dialogue that comes in place which says Kala Akshar Bhes Barabar. Now,
Yeah.
your eyes
Happens.
directly roll over to the subtitles and it reads the black alphabet equal to the buffalo. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? No, right?
It doesn't.
Of
Yeah.
course. The correct translation for that would be illiterate or dumb, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Connecting the dots back to the BA profile is this is what we do, right?
Right.
Uh,
Right.
People, a direct translation of anything
Yeah.
is not correct in every scenario, right?
Mm.
uh, and that's what kind of we do in a way that we go ahead, we sit with the client,
Yeah.
understand their business language, understand what their requirements are, and mostly client kind of come up and explain things in a very business oriented language, right?
Right.
And when it comes to us explaining this to our team, right, if you use the same technology or if you use the same terminology with them, they will not understand it.
Right.
So when we have to move from clients to our team, our approach of communication becomes more towards system oriented
Mm.
language, right? So
Right.
that's what we do in general as a BA, that we sit with the client, understand things in a very business oriented language, in a very macro language, as such that, okay, this is the change that we're trying to bring, this is what we're going to do, this is the transformation that we want. We were
Right.
doing things X way, we want things doing Y way, right? Now, I come back, tell to my team that, all right, this is what we have to develop now. We need
Yeah.
to have a system in place that will help them do this particular functionality in this way, right?
Yeah.
So that's the very broader perspective. Now how do we do it is with the help of different tools that the industry has defined for the BA profile as such. We use process flows, we use solution design document, we use user stories, epics, there's Figma, UI interface, test cases, and a lot more. This is basically my roles and responsibility in general, that it more revolves around communication,
Yeah.
and that's what a BA profile does. And I would say, talking about my usual day includes meetings, 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 and a lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
documentation, so that everything that you've heard is kind of put in a paper format, so that it stays and it can be communicated in a very efficient manner to everyone.
Right. Right. So is it safe to say that I mean if summarizing your role in one line, that you are a bridge between the end consumers and the tech team. So
Yes.
hearing out the requirements in a non-techie way, and then talking with the technical team, and because they think from the technical perspective, and you have to come up with a mix sort of a perspective. So I think that somehow would summarize your role, right? Correct me
Yes,
if I'm
that
wrong.
definitely does. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. And as you already said that uh, communication and documentation are very critical parts. And as we did hear you in last 2-3 minutes talking about your roles and responsibilities, we can confidently say that nothing of this involves programming, right? So folks who are watching our podcast episode right now, be very, very sure that if you are trying to enter into IT as a business analyst and you do not want to program, of course that's your choice. You can go and select coding, and you can make your career into coding or programming. Folks have done this who do not come from an IT background. That's okay. But if you don't want to, because our podcast is more focused on that thing, so you can go and do it, right? Which somehow brings me to the next question, Kiran. And since we do not have these questions properly drafted, I would say this is more of an interaction, and just want to share the questions with you as I start thinking them. I'm right now thinking of myself as a person who wants to get into IT, right? And all the questions I would have when talking to you. So yes, business analysis is a good role, and I've understood a lot of things about business analysis. What other roles do you think are there in IT for me if I want to get into IT and I do not want to program on code?
All right, so talking about roles in general, of course, business analyst is one of the roles that you can do, and all of it
Mhm.
kind of revolves around your personality as such. If
Yeah.
you kind of look at me, I knew that my communication was strong. So this field
Right.
for me would be a better field because I can
Mhm.
make that change.
Right.
That's one of the profile that you can go. You can go ahead and look yourself for something in project management, which can be
Mhm.
a project coordinator, you can be a project associate, you can be a project management
Right.
manager as well. And all of this would require a very strong hold on your management skills as well
Mhm.
as your financial skills in a way.
Right.
There is a profile called Scrum Master, which also
Mhm.
revolves around management a lot. Product owner, where you kind of define a product or design a product and then sell the product from the IT field as such. Then we have quality analyst, where you can actually go ahead and do functional testing of
Yeah.
everything that's built out by the team. So I would say these are few profiles that you can consider if you don't want a code heavy career in your
Right.
life.
Right.
It can be a techie or it can be a
Yeah.
non-techie listening to this. So if you don't need that much of a code based or code heaviness in your career and your profile, go ahead look out for profiles like these. BA, QA, project manager, product owner, scrum masters, and something in sales as well.
Correct. So on that note, if let's suppose if I enter into the IT domain as a non-IT person, right? I mean, just coming from some sales or marketing background, and I completed 5 years in marketing, for example, and now in the sixth year of my career, I'm getting into IT as a business analyst or as a quality analyst, right? Will my growth get impacted in the long term? And why do I ask this question? So there are a lot of people who just started fresh out of college, right?
Mm.
So they already are in the IT domain for last 5 years, and me, yes, I have an experience of 5 years, but as IT, I'm a fresher, right? So will my growth get impacted both in short term and in long term? What
Okay.
would happen?
All right. So in your short term, I would say, yes, your growth would be a little slower than everyone
Yeah,
else because you're
yeah,
starting from scratch, right?
right,
Anything that
right,
you start from scratch, you need your sweet amount of time to grasp the domain. You need the time to actually understand the task and technologies that are performed. So in the short term, definitely yes, and I think everybody knows this part as well, that when you
yeah,
go ahead transition into something, it takes some time. And when you talk about the long term in general, the long term, I would say no, because look at your profile in general, right? You're carrying that industry knowledge, you're carrying that domain knowledge which other people will not have, right?
yeah,
So which means which is kind of putting you up on a higher pedestal than everyone else
mm-hmm.
in the industry or uh, in the team that you are in.
Right,
So I'd say
right,
short term, yes. Long term, you're bringing a lot to the table other than experience of
yeah,
IT in general.
yeah,
You're
correct, correct,
bringing industry knowledge, you're bringing domain knowledge. So it is a combination. Any job is a combination of all. It's not just one
yeah.
specific. So I'll
But
kind of end my
yeah,
question answer
yeah,
there.
right, right. So yes, in short term, it might impact you a little bit, but in long term, it's all the same, right? Okay, so I think that we have addressed a lot of questions around this topic, that is all you need to know about transitioning into information technology. I have this last question, and yes, we have discussed a lot of pointers, and you might feel that this question is a little similar to the previous questions, as in a summary of all the questions. But what we have seen is that when you have a step by step of a format for a particular agenda, it's easier to track it, or it's easier to walk on it. So the question is that for people who are planning this transition or who are thinking about this transition, can you share a generalized roadmap for them, that how should they start, what should be some steps, and then how can this be achieved, right? Of course, we have discussed it, but when you have a flow chart, it makes easier for us to track or understand. So, do you have any idea on this particular?
Yeah, definitely. So I would rather kind of give you a response from the perspective I looked at it, and I generally look at it. So the first
Yeah.
thing I would say to anyone who is kind of transitioning or wanting to transition into IT would be
Mhm.
first to identify the technologies or the top technologies in the market, right? Because you're new to the world, you need to do a
Yeah.
little research. Right.
Yeah.
This is where the research point comes into place. Identify the technologies out there, and right now, I'd say maybe when I moved into IT, I looked a lot about Salesforce. What does
Yeah.
Salesforce do? How much change does it bring? How much growth is it having over the past 5 years? Is it the highest growing technology in the market? What kind of domain they are putting into place, or they
Right.
have products? So identifying that top technologies in the market, and then choosing one out of it and putting
Yeah.
all your focus into that, and just, I would say, learn the in and out of that technology.
Yeah.
How does that technology work? What impact does it make, and things like that. When you do that little research about the technology, you then have to start learning towards the functional part of the technology, right? Of what are the products that it's searching, what transition it is making, what difference does it make to people out there, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if I put it up in questions like, what does technology do, what are the pain areas that the
Mhm.
technology is serving, and what benefits does the customer get out of it, what is the return that it provides, and things like that, right?
Right.
Now this is where your research part comes into place. Like you've researched, this is the technology I want, this is the technology I want to get into
Mm-hmm.
now, and I have this much of knowledge about it. Now this is where you go out and connect with people who are working in the technology, right?
Right.
um, and I would say networking is what works the best in this place, right? uh, Talk to people, understand from them what that technology is about, how does their work look like. And I would say if you reach out to 10 people,
Yeah.
definitely 9 will not respond to you,
Yeah.
but there would be that
True.
one person who would
True.
respond to you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just because those 9 are not responding to you, don't demotivate yourself, but continue your
Right.
search for that one person who's going to bring that
Yeah.
change to you, right? uh, and then ask for mentorship, tell them that this is what you're
Yeah.
trying to look for, and this is what you want, how can I grow into it, and then start small,
Yeah.
right? This is what I would say, this is kind of a very negative thing I would say from the current generation is everybody wants to start with a bang.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be at the top of the ladder just when you enter. That's
Yeah.
not how the world works, right?
Lack of
You
patience,
need
I would say.
lack of patience,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I would say the desire to have the perfect thing, right?
Yeah.
Perfect thing doesn't come to you. You have to build that perfect
Right.
thing, right?
Right.
So
Right.
start smaller, right? Create your projects, create your use cases, and look for opportunities. And when you look for opportunities, don't just be like, okay, I need a certain this kind of opportunity, and until and unless I get it, I'll kind of not get into it.
Yeah.
That's where you're doing wrong. You have to start somewhere to move to the highest position or to move to the place where you want to be. And to summarize it all, don't expect treasures at the start. It is going
Yeah.
to be a rough journey.
It is.
It is
Yeah.
going to be a
Right.
rough journey. You have to be patient to get
Yeah.
to that particular part. And at the end, I would say things will work out in the long run. It does work out. You just have to have that patience for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think,
that's
yeah, that's actually quite a good answer. And guys, I think if you want any advice and if you're planning to get into business analyst domain, I think that one person for you could be Kiran. Not could be, she is the one person for you. That is for sure. And as you know, while hearing out your answer, and when you said that yes, I think this is something which is lacking in this generation. I somehow felt that yes, I think we have grown old because this is something that we would hear from our parents. So
I know. I kind of I would say have that realization day in and
yeah.
day out that I have grown a little older,
Yeah, a
definitely.
little old, a little old. Yeah, that's something that relieves my mind when I hear the word little. So yes, little old. That's okay. But yeah, I mean, jokes apart, coming back to the topic that I mean, the answer that Kiran gave and what I would like to reiterate as well, because guys, this we do not treat this podcast or this particular idea as a typical question answer. This is more of a discussion that me and Kiran are having, and I consider myself as one of the viewer, and then I ask the question. And sometimes I consider myself as a person who's asking the questions, and we keep on reiterating some points. You might feel that okay, some pointers are being repeated, but the reason is that when we strike some important pointers more and more, the more you grasp them in, right? So as Kiran rightly said, that be patient, right? Because we have seen, I mean, when folks ping me or when I have calls with them, there are people who are just fresh out of college or just 1 or 2 years in the industry. They have a lot of impatience, right? I am not saying that what's happening with you is not it's abnormal, right? I'm sure when me and Kiran were at that stage, even we had very unrealistic expectations, right? That
I
could
have
be.
that.
Even I had, and I think there could be another long podcast episode about the expectations I had when I was in college. Far, far away from this galaxy, those expectations in some parallel universe could be true, but somehow you make your peace with it. So yes, what you are doing as a fresher or as this generation, I would say, is something which is very normal. Just the intensity changes, right? So, but this is how you mature in your career. When you hear out people, of course, we are not that well experienced. We are also learning. Everybody is learning in the domain. But when you hear out someone, just keep your mind very open. And as she has rightly said, that guys, be very patient. You'll get everything you want, right? But you have to be patient with it. And I think, Kiran, you have given a very good roadmap. And whenever you have any questions or any doubts, guys, please feel free to ping Kiran. She's pretty responsive on LinkedIn, and I'm sure she'll be more than happy to help you. So on that note, Kiran, before we wind up this episode, would you like to share anything with us? Would you like to, just ending notes from your end?
Uh, Nothing specific. I would kind put emphasis on the same thing again. Be patient, because
Yeah,
I know when I got into the IT career, I wasn't patient at all. I wanted to
yeah,
just leave the industry, go to some other place. And that's when
yeah,
I reached out to my mentors, panicking like anything, that this is not working out for me. This is not working out for me. And I know at that point in time, Shweta, who is my mentor, actually told me that you have to be patient, Kiran.
patient.
Try
Yeah,
finding things that will work out for you. So if, as I said again earlier, if nine things are not working out for you, there would be that one thing that works out for you. So
yeah,
I'll emphasize that on this thing again and again, because I know when you get into that situation, it becomes messy.
yeah.
And
It
when
does.
you are
Yeah,
just out of that college, those expectations getting hurt, those expectations not being met, uh, pushes you into a different zone altogether.
yeah, it does.
And that's a strange world. People don't go up to their mentors, don't talk about those feelings, don't talk about
Yeah,
those phases. I would say go reach out to people around you, and get those learnings, and get
yeah.
that at least validation from people that it is not just you, it is
Right,
everyone.
right, right. It does.
It
It
is
helps. It
everyone.
helps. Yeah,
Yes, it kind of helps, I would say.
yeah,
uh have that in your mind, and that
yeah,
will kind of put you in place that, man, I'm not the only one,
yeah,
everybody's suffering the same thing.
yeah,
So let's be patient and work out so that
yeah,
things will kind of be good for me in
yeah.
all.
True, true. That's true. Yeah, I think this was good, and honestly, we had a very good time. While we as in I'm talking about me, of course. I don't know about the viewers yet. Let's wait for the comments. But I had a good time talking to you, and I can go on and on with the questions because, of course, this is an interesting topic. But given the sort of thing that we started with, that is a speed podcast, so we should not cross 30-35 minutes max. So yeah, I think thank you so much for in accepting my invitation, and we have been working on this particular idea for a long time now, and I genuinely feel that whatever interaction we had, whatever answers you gave, even if we are able to relieve 20 to 30% of the anxiety that these folks are having who are planning for transition, I think a job is done, right? Because of course this relief, I mean, 100% is never possible. To achieve the 70-80% confidence is something that journey, something that you even learn while you're on the journey. But even if we have motivated you, or if we have somehow awakened that confidence that yes, I can do it, let me give it a try, I think our job is done. So, and when I say our job, I genuinely mean your job, Kiran, because I am just a host here. So thank you so much again for being here. And guys, as I've already said, that if you have any questions, if you need any guidance, please feel free to ping Kiran Chavda on LinkedIn. I'm going to share the profile in the description as well. So yeah, with that note, I'm genuinely having a good time discussing these things with you. But let's put an end to this. And thank you so much for turning into the episode today of All You Need to Know About Transitioning Your Career into Information Technology. We genuinely hope that this content and the half an hour of your life that you gave us was helpful to you. And yeah, as it goes without saying, if you genuinely enjoyed our content, please feel free to subscribe and leave us a comment. If you did not like the content, if you have any suggestions, do not subscribe, but just leave us a comment on how can we improve, right? Because that is the main intent. So yeah, finally, thank you so much for watching this podcast, and we'll be coming up with new videos, new podcasts every week. So stay tuned, and all the best. Bye bye, and thank you again, Kiran.
Thank you.